morning. My name's Dave Steinert. I'm the president of the Oshkosh Patriotic Council. On behalf of the Oshkosh Patriotic Council, welcome to today's ceremony and thank you for attending. We are here today to honor our service members and to remember their sacrifices they have made and the courage it takes to defend our country. At this time, if you are able, please stand for the posting of our nation's colors. Honor Guard, please post the colors. Veterans, hand salute. Two. I'd like to call on Cyril Griesbach, chaplain for the Veterans of Foreign Wars post 1908, to give the invocation. Uncover.
Heavenly Father, in your wisdom, you have called many to serve with courage and strength. Today we lift up our veterans, those guardians of peace, who have sacrificed their comfort for our safety. Lord, bless them with an abundance of honor and respect that mirrors the magnitude of their sacrifice. As the shepherd guides his flock to green pastures, lead our veterans to places where their hearts find peace and recognition. Let their service be acknowledged not just with words, but through our actions and deeds. In a world quick to move forward, let us pause, reflect, and give thanks for the freedoms preserved by their selflessness. May your love wrap around them, healing any unseen wounds, and reinforcing their worth far beyond their days in uniform. Grant them strength, renew their spirits, and fill them with your everlasting peace, knowing that their service is honored and remembered. Amen.
Thank you, Cyril. Please recover. We'll now have the singing of the national anthem by Lily Krieger, a student at Winneconne High School. And salute.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through a perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Two. Thank you, Lil. Thank you, Lily. Now the students from Valley Christian School will lead us in saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Two. Please be seated. Thank you to the students from Valley Christian and Lily Krieger. We'll now have a few words from the Winnebago County Executive, Gordon Hintz.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the warm welcome, and welcome to all of you for the annual Veterans Day event. It's great to see so many familiar faces, certainly from different tours, and I'm appreciative for each and every one of you for the service to our country. I know in Winnebago County, I think we have more than 60 active staff who are veterans. I also want to highlight Del Vopel, our Veteran Services Director, who is with our VSO, and want to make sure that if you ever need anything, that we're reaching out, and that especially for young men and women returning from service that may not know about the benefits that they've earned that are available to them, that we're getting them integrated and getting them plugged in to the County Veteran Services Office. I'm someone who was at Oshkosh North on Thursday for their Veterans Day program. When Roy Rogers spoke and went through the number of Wisconsinites who served in World War I and lost their lives, in World War II and lost their lives, in Korea and in Vietnam, in the Persian Gulf and Iraq. And I thought to myself, this state's contribution, this county's contribution, this area's contribution to serving this country has been from the beginning and is significant. And all of you represent that. Your willingness to serve, whether you saw combat or not, you stood up for the ideals of this country, whether you were drafted or whether you directly volunteered, you stood up for the ideals of this country. And even when we get frustrated, I always remind myself when I do the Pledge of Allegiance and when I do the national anthem that the days that I'm most frustrated with the country or maybe what's happening, that's not what I'm doing it for. I'm standing up for the ideals that we believe in: freedom, opportunity. And the reason that we have those things is because we've always had men and women stepping up to serve, to preserve those very freedoms. And so all of those conflicts, all of the history that we've had, the men and women that have served, I know are those that we're thanking and are responsible for that. As someone who believes in public service and as someone who probably could have used some discipline at age 18, I often think I would have been better if I had stepped up to serve then. But I know that all of you have a bond, no matter your age, generation, or tour, that I can't, totally connect to. And so I know today is a special day for all of you. I hope you'll embrace it. I know every day should be Veterans Day, and I try to remind myself of that when I see someone, that either has their hat on for their tour or that I recognize from the community as having served. So thank you for your service. Enjoy today. and every day, and just know that so many of us appreciate everything that you've stood for, and everything in the ideals of this country that we continue to uphold, promote, and try to live. So, thank you.
Thank you for those remarks. Veterans Day was originally known as Armistice Day on November 11th, 1919, which was the first anniversary of the end of the World War I. The name was changed to Veterans Day in 1954 by President Dwight D. Eisenhower and honors all former military service members. Ceremonies are traditionally held on the 11th day of the 11th month at the 11th hour to mark the armistice signed between the Allies of World War I, which took effect at 11 o'clock in the morning. During today's ceremony at 11 a.m., we'll stop the program, turn to the east, and ring our bell 11 times to honor the celebration that occurred on Armistice Day in 1918, signaling the end of World War I. Our guest speaker this morning is a good friend and fellow VFW member, Ralph Beck. I've known Ralph for the last 20 years, ever since I joined the United Veterans Honor Guard. This is a group made up of different veterans groups in Oshkosh and Winnebago County. They only perform military honors at veterans' funerals. He's a native of Wisconsin, growing up in La Crosse. He was 4 years active in the Marine Corps from 1965 to 1969, doing one tour in Vietnam from 1965 to 66 as an Ontos crewman. He was a Purple Heart recipient in January of 1966. He returned to Vietnam 4 times on mission trips to construct 3 clinics and 1 playground from 1998 to 2000. He's a past commander of the Military Order of the Purple Heart, Chapter 162, past president of the Military Veterans Museum Board of Directors, past state commander of the AMVETS, past commandant of the Marine Corps League Detachment 357. He's an active member of several other veterans groups, including our post 1908. He's married to Lynn. Where's Lynn? She's back here. He's got 5 children and 12 grandchildren and 1 great-grandchild. By the way, happy birthday today, Lynn. Let's give her a hand. Please welcome our guest speaker, Ralph Beck.
Shall I even start? Yeah. Get rid of this, will you, buddy?
Oh, sure.
All right, we are just a couple of minutes before 11 o'clock, and as Steiny mentioned, I was an Ontos crewman in Vietnam. I brought my little model Ontos with me because not too many people know what this vehicle is. One of my trips back to Vietnam, I ran into a little shop where a guy constructed things he never saw an Ontos, and I gave him about 4 or 5 pictures from different angles of an Ontos, and when I came back a week later, this is what he had made for me. And I was absolutely amazed. And you know what he wanted for this? $4. Isn't that ridiculous? Actually, he made me 2. The second one I gave to the brother of one of the fellows that we lost in Vietnam. Lives in Texas. And so I just wanted to bring my little model Ontos with me today so y'all could see what that was and you can appreciate what I did. And it is now 11 o'clock.
Face the east, which is that way. Do we salute? Hand salute. 2. Thank you for your speech, Ralph. Oh,
Don't you wish? That was the easiest speech I ever gave. Today I would like to share a real personal story with you about a fellow that I knew in Vietnam who didn't make it home. I'd like to introduce you to Lance Corporal Robert Gage. He was a fellow Ontos crewman and Marine. Was born on March 17th, 1945 in Columbus, Ohio. He graduated from high school in 1963 and almost immediately thereafter joined the Marine Corps. When he joined the Marine Corps, we only had advisors in Vietnam. But by the time he finished his training, the first combat troops had been introduced to Vietnam, which happened on March 8th, 1965. Lance Corporal Gage was among the very first Ontos crewmen that arrived in Vietnam. He was stationed at a little airstrip called Chu Lai, which is about 7 or 8 miles south of Da Nang. Having completed his 13-month tour of overseas duty, he was scheduled to come home on Independence Day, July 4th, 1965. I'm sorry, 1966. He had completed his tour. He was coming home July 4th, 1966. About 3 o'clock in the afternoon on July 3rd, the day before he was coming home, he accompanied another Marine to a small hamlet just outside the Marine headquarters base. Almost every base in Vietnam had a small hamlet or village just outside the perimeter where we would go to have laundry services, get haircuts, and some other personal kinds of things that the people in the community would provide for us. It was his intent to have some laundry done, that he could take some clean stuff back to Okinawa on his way home, where he would pick up the rest of his stuff, and he was scheduled to be home with his family within a couple of days. While the other Marine that accompanied him was bargaining with a shop owner, haggling about the price of the laundry, Robert walked away, and he struck up a conversation with 2 or 3 young girls in the village. And when the other Marine concluded his business, he decided to leave Robert there, and he went back to the base camp, and Robert was in the village alone. About 2 hours later, the other Marine noticed that Robert had not returned to the base. So he gathered a couple of friends, they went back down into the village, and they conducted a little search, and they couldn't find him. So he went back to the base camp and reported to his superiors that Robert was apparently missing. The sun was starting to set. It was about 5:30. The Marines immediately organized 2 platoons to go out and search the village for Robert. They took with them 8 tracking dogs as they searched the village. However, unfortunately, they found no evidence that he was even there. They did locate the shop owner that they were bargaining with to have their laundry done, and she said yes. 2 Marines had come to her to ask for her services, and she did identify one young girl that he had spoken with, but she was no longer available to be found. Over the course of the next couple of days, the Marines went back to the village, searched and searched, but they found no sign of where Robert was. The woman that they talked to, who was doing their laundry, was probably very terrified of the Viet Cong. She said that the chief of the village was Viet Cong, and at nighttime, the village was occupied by the Viet Cong. They would come into the village to collect what they called taxes on the services that the people provided for the Marines. And the woman also said that her husband had worked for the South Vietnamese government and the Viet Cong had killed him. So you can understand that she was very reluctant to share anything or identify people that might have been involved. I can understand that. Not too many years ago, I saw a movie called Heaven and Earth, and it was based on a true story of a young Vietnamese girl who described what it was like growing up when her country was at war. And she was torn between doing the right thing and the fear of what the Viet Cong would do to her or her family. And it was based on a book that she wrote. The name of the book was called When Heaven and Earth Change Places. And if you ever want to see a movie that describes the war from their perspective, I would strongly suggest the movie Heaven and Earth. Having no success in trying to find Robert, the Marine Corps then classified him as missing in action. All of his friends rotated back home. I was one of them. I came back to my family, tried to pick up my life and continue on. It didn't happen for Robert. In 1992 and again in 1993, the Defense POW Accounting Agency made a trip to Vietnam, several trips to Vietnam. And their purpose was to find out what happened to Robert as well as other servicemen that were missing in action. They were once again able to locate the shop owner, and they interrogated her further. They actually detained her. At that point, she admitted to hearing a single gunshot about 30 minutes after Robert went missing. Further investigation uncovered the fact that there was a group in that village whose intent was to capture an American soldier and turn him over to the Vietnamese. They were given rewards, they were given financial incentives to do this. And the Viet Cong were paid in financial incentives if they were able to take captive any American soldiers. They found out that the girls lured Robert into a hut. And when he got into the hut, there were a number of Vietnamese, South Vietnamese guerrillas that were waiting for him, and they took him captive. He was armed with a .45 caliber pistol. He drew the pistol. He tried to defend himself, but he was overpowered, disarmed, and he was shot in the head with his own weapon. During the course of those investigations, they also found a man who admitted that he was part of what happened. He didn't admit to being part of the killing of Robert Gage, but he did say that he helped hide the body and dispose of it at a later time. They learned that Robert was buried. And then later, because they were fearful that he would be found near the village, they dug him up and they buried him somewhere else. And over the years, they've lost track of actually where his remains are. This man reported, conveniently, that everyone that was involved in the abduction of Lance Corporal Gage, the girls, the Vietnamese guerrillas, he said that they all perished before the end of the war in 1973. The Marine Corps continued to promote Robert and changed his classification to missing in action, presumed dead, on July 3rd, 1974. And at that time, he had obtained the rank of Staff Sergeant. Some of you may recall a news commentator, very famous, ABC News, named Paul Harvey. And he had a program called The Rest of the Story. And now I would like to personally share a little bit of the rest of the story. There were two hard and fast rules in Vietnam. Rule number one, never be in the village alone. And rule number two, never be in the village after dark. Billy Joel wrote a song called Good Night Vietnam, Good Night Saigon. And in that he penned the words, "We held the day in the palm of our hands, but they ruled the night." And that is very, very true. About 6 weeks prior to Robert Gage's disappearance, then Private First Class Ralph Beck foolishly went to the village by himself. It was late afternoon, and I went there to be in the company of a girl that I had met and grown very fond of visiting. You can read between the lines. I lost track of time. And all of a sudden, I realized it was getting dark. And I heard male voices in the hut where I was. The hut was small. It was the rooms, we call them rooms, were divided just by hanging blankets. And just on the other side of the blanket, I heard male voices. And they got louder and they got angrier as there was an exchange between the girl that I was with and the men out there. I knew at that point I had lingered too long. But this story today is about Robert, not so much about me. And perhaps another time I will share with you the fact that I was miraculously rescued from that position. Why? How? Is really beyond my description. And that story is better told in a different part of this building, the church, because I do believe with all of my heart that God intervened and rescued me from that situation. Survivor's guilt is a debilitating condition that many members of the armed forces experience. For some, the question is, why was I stateside and that guy had to go over and suffer the loneliness and the fear of being in a combat zone? Or it might be, why was I slightly wounded when that guy lost his life and never came home? These are questions that we will never fully be able to answer in this lifetime. They're questions that I wrestle with all the time. Nevertheless, trying to cope with the war after these events becomes extremely difficult and for some, almost impossible. One of my favorite war movies, of course, Full Metal Jacket. And why is that? Because the boot camp scenes are so familiar to me. It's so realistic. Gunnery Sergeant Hartman tells his recruits, it is a hard heart that kills. And that is the truth. For me, when I got home, I built a wall 10 feet high, 2 feet deep, protecting myself, protecting my feelings, and shielding me and isolating me from even those that loved me. I tried to drown my feelings of guilt with alcohol and mask my fears with drugs. I was angry and sometimes violent, and I hurt those around me in ways that I really regret today. But eventually I found my home in the company of my fellow veterans. They didn't judge me. They accepted me. They loved me in spite of myself. And the wall began to crumble. And a heart of stone started to turn into a heart of flesh. And many of you in this room helped me in that journey, perhaps without even knowing it. And for that, I am so grateful. When we come together at events like this, or at POW, MIA remembrance ceremonies, Memorial Day events, and others that are similar, we often say the words, we will never forget. We will never forget. The AMVETS perform a ceremony that they call the seating of the honored guest. In that ceremony, we're given little cards to remember somebody that never came home. And I always take the card with Robert Gage's name on it. He is my honored guest. Part of that ceremony states these words. Everyone knows that it might just as easily been your name there, and those that experience that, and especially me, realize how close my name came to being on one of these cards. My wife Lynn, whose birthday it is today, I never forget her birthday. Maybe I forget to take her somewhere, but I don't forget the day. She always takes a card with the name Richard Hintz, and most of you know who that is too. He is an Oshkosh veteran who never returned home. His aircraft was shot down over North Vietnam, and his remains have never been recovered either. Sadly to say, Robert's mother, Richard's mother, both passed away without ever knowing what happened or having their sons repatriated to the United States. I'm grateful for the Vietnam Vets of America remembering Richard every year. And his mother attended our services as long as she was able. Let me conclude with this. As we continue along this journey, tomorrow is not guaranteed to any of us. But we offer the support and love to those close to us. We continue to heal and we continue to move forward. And above all, we thank God that He has given us a second chance, and in some cases a third and a fourth chance. He's extended His mercy and His grace and His love to us. We cannot rewrite the past. We cannot change where we came from or what we did. But from this point forward, we can commit ourselves to loving each other, serving each other, and making a difference. And that's what I will do. Thank you for having me here today. God bless you all.
Thanks, Ralph.
For that uplifting message.
Okay, we will now pay tribute to those who have sacrificed their lives for this country with the placing of the memorial wreath. The wreath will be posted by Francis Matthey of the American Legion Post 70 and Jerry Pomeraning, member of the Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 1908. Please rise and salute. Two. Once again, we'll call on Lily Krieger to sing God Bless America. Lily?
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Thank you, Lily. Our benediction will be led by Cyril Griesbach, chaplain of the Veterans of Foreign Wars. If you are able, please stand, uncover.
May the God of peace, who inspires courage and sacrifice, bless and keep you always. As we depart from our sacred gathering, may his peace settle upon our nation and extend throughout the world. Watch over our veterans, both those with us and those who have passed, granting them comfort, dignity, and lasting tranquility. May the spirit of their service move us all to lives worthy of their great sacrifice. Amen.
Cover. Our program will close with the 21-gun salute by the United Veterans Honor Guard. The Honor Guard is comprised of members representing various veteran service organizations. Following that, taps will be played by Lisa Hemlock of the VFW Band and retired middle school band director. Your presence here today and that of the people gathering across America is a tribute to those who have served our country and to their families. It is a way to say we remember. And salute. Two. This concludes our ceremony. Thank you for attending today. God bless you and your families. God bless our troops, and God bless America. Thank you again for coming.